In 1990, masseuse Patricia Parsons was found dead in her car. She had been shot 3 times in the head with what is believed to have been a crossbow. I'm Adam, and this is Southend Paranormal. So, 42-year-old Patricia Parsons, known as Lee to friends and as Debbie to work colleagues, worked at a sauna massage parlour in Camden Town, the New Experience Sauna. She lived alone in Free and Barnet, North London, and also owned 2 other properties. For 2 years, Patricia had been dating a man called Ozzy and had loaned him money to open a restaurant in Harlow, Essex, called Leo's. Whilst officially employed as a masseuse, Patricia's job apparently actually involved providing men with discreet sexual services at her home. Her clients allegedly included a top judge, TV presenters, barristers and accountants. So the murder itself, now this is what we know. On the 23rd of June 1990, Patricia and Ozzy had gone to Leo's around lunchtime to set up for a party. She then left at 3:30 p.m. to go to the garden centre. At 6 p.m, Ozzy called her home and Patricia said she was still getting ready, but assured him she would arrive at Leo's in time for the party, starting at 7:30 p.m. However, between approximately 7:30 and 8 p.m, she left her home again, but where she went in this time is unknown. By around 8 p.m, Ozzy had grown concerned that she hadn't arrived yet and called again to ask where she was. Patricia answered the phone and said she had good news to tell him when she arrived. Around half an hour later, her next door neighbour heard an argument between Patricia and a man. The neighbour became concerned and went outside to see if he could see anything, but to no avail. After he went back into the house, he heard a door slam and saw Patricia enter her car at the passenger side, and an unknown man with fairish hair got in the driver's side and drove away. Ozzy called her house one last time at 9:15, but it went unanswered. The next day, her car was discovered in an area of Epping Forest, close to the villages of Upshire and Copthall Green. Inside the car was Patricia's body. She had been battered and shot 3 times in the head and neck with what police believed to have been a crossbow. So is it actual investigation? Now, police believe that Patricia's murder was premeditated and it had been described as an execution. They haven't publicised much evidence in this case, and there has been very few updates to the investigation. Most notably, police have revealed that the book that contained Patricia's client's information had been taken from her home and has never been found. On the afternoon of the murder, a local resident noticed 2 men standing by their cars on opposite sides of a road, near where Patricia's body was discovered. Initially, she dismissed it, but was suspicious when she saw they were still there 5 hours later. Patricia's murder has also been linked to the murders of Terry Goodham and Maxine Arnold, who were murdered in December 1989. They were both found dead in Maxine's car in Epping Forest, 2 miles from where Lee was found, and had been killed with a shotgun. Goodham had been an accountant and auditor for a number of London pubs. Their deaths have been linked to a number of different organised crime figures. In 2003, Patricia's murder was reinvestigated using new DNA techniques, but no new leads were found from this method of inquiry. In 2007, it was reported that police were close to arresting the case. The man arrested was then 58-year-old Colin Rosenheim. He was bailed and has never been charged. Since the arrest of Rosenheim, there have been no updates in the case and it remains unsolved. That was taken from Unresolved Mysteries on Reddit, courtesy of Purple Tap Shoe. Some of the next excerpts will be coming from unsolvedmurders.co.uk. So basically, as we've gone over the basics of what happened, further details on Unsolved Murders are as follows. As we know, he was found dead in her white Golf. It was a C-Reg Volkswagen GTI convertible, index C970SVV. And this was in Long Street, Upshire, near the Good Intent pub in Epping Forest. And this was found on the 24th of June by some ramblers. At about 1:30 p.m. near Fernhall Lane, a woman was driving along the road through Epping Forest when she said she saw two cars parked on either side of the road, a red one and a green one. She said that she knew that the area was popular with people walking their dogs or out to eat their lunch, but said that she noticed that there was nothing of that sort going on. She had been going out shopping and said that when she returned about 5 hours later, the two men were still there. At about 5 p.m, as we already know, a neighbour in Free and Barnet said that she thought that Patricia Parsons had a visitor. She said that she saw a black car drive up to her house driven by a black man. She said that it looked odd to her as it didn't look like a minicab to her, as it was too lovely a car. She said that she could see that Patricia Parsons' Volkswagen Golf car was there, but said that the man in the black car didn't get out, and said that he pulled into her drive, turned around and gave a nod and drove off. The police later said that they needed to eliminate the driver. It was noted that the car had a distinctive V-shaped aerial. At about 6 p.m, Patricia Parsons' boyfriend called her at her home and they had a conversation. He said that Patricia Parsons told him that she had got some flowers from the garden centre and that she was just getting ready to go out, and that he told her the event was to start about 7:30, and she asked whether he meant 8 to 8:30, and that he told her to just get there as soon as she could. It was about the same time that the woman that had been out shopping and had seen the two men with two cars on the road in Epping Forest came home and said that the men were still there, which made her a little suspicious. She said that when she got home, she commented to her husband that it was odd to see two people standing there for about 5 hours. At about 7:30, Patricia Parsons was seen to drive away from the house alone, but to come back about half an hour later. The police said that they didn't know where she went. At about 8 p.m, Patricia Parsons' boyfriend said that the event had started and that there were a number of people at the restaurant, but that Patricia Parsons had not shown up, and so he called her at home. He said that he spoke to her and complained that the party had already started, and then asked if she was all right, noting that she sounded like she had been sleeping, but said that Patricia Parsons told her that she was all right, but that she had something to tell him, but that she couldn't tell him then over the phone, and that she would tell him when she got to the restaurant. However, Patricia Parsons' boyfriend asked her to at least tell him whether it was good or bad, and she told him that it was good. A neighbour in Free and Barnet said that he was watching the World Cup on the television at about 8:30 when he heard a yell. He said that he then turned the volume down and heard a loud argument going on next door with a man shouting at Patricia Parsons. He said that he became concerned, and so he went outside to where his car was, and that he looked into Patricia Parsons' kitchen window where he could see the light on, but couldn't see or hear anything. He said he then went back in, and that the next thing that he heard was Patricia Parsons' door bang, and then went to his kitchen window and saw Patricia Parsons getting into her car with a man, noting that the man got into the driver's seat while Patricia Parsons got into the passenger side unaided, and then they drove off. The neighbour said that he thought that the man that got into the car with Patricia had fairish hair. However, she didn't turn up at her boyfriend's restaurant, and the police said that they thought she had been forced to go to Epping Forest. At about 9:15 p.m, the boyfriend called her home, but only got her voice messaging system. The following morning, Patricia Parsons' Volkswagen Golf car was seen in Epping Forest, near to where the two suspicious cars had been seen waiting the afternoon before. Then later, at about lunchtime, a rambler passed the car and looked inside and saw her body. The police said that they wanted to trace the man that had driven by her house that afternoon in the black car, as well as the man that had driven her away from her house in her car, as well as the two men in the two cars that were seen loitering near Epping Forest by the woman that was out shopping. The men that were seen loitering near Epping Forest were described as follows. The first man, red car, was white and had been wearing black tracksuit trousers with a red stripe down the legs. Second man, driving a green car, had light brown skin, was in his mid-30s, about 6 foot, with a slim build, with a moustache, neatly cut hair, which was possibly gelled back, and had been wearing a long-sleeved yellow sweatshirt. The police said that they were thought to have been there from about 1:30 p.m. to about 6:30 p.m. or even later. The police said that it was clear that the murder was an execution. They said that they were not satisfied that they had determined the motive and appealed for anyone that knew her to come forward. Patricia Parsons was divorced, but was described as wealthy and owned 3 houses. Her house in Free and Barnet was said to have been worth £500,000. Now you've got to remember, £500,000 32 years ago. So with inflation, what would that be worth now? So just going to go on, as described earlier. She was said to have been a masseuse and escort, and to have provided discreet sexual services to a range of celebrities and VIPs. Her clients were said to have included a judge and a television presenter. She had also run a sauna in Camden Town on Eversholt Street called New Experience Sauna, working there 3 days a week and having worked there for about 12 years. She was known there to all her colleagues as Debbie. She was known to have had a black or blue notebook in which she was thought to have kept the names of over 200 clients, including the names and telephone numbers of famous celebrities, but it was never found. It was thought that her murder had been a contract killing to prevent her from disclosing certain names to a Sunday newspaper. A friend of Patricia Parsons said Lee was strikingly attractive. She loved her work and saw herself as a social worker on behalf of lonely men. She dressed to please them and relieved their fantasies. Her post-mortem stated that she had died from 3 deep puncture wounds to the head that had been caused by an unknown implement, which was thought to have been the result of having been shot in the head by a crossbow bolt. There had been a wedding reception nearby in Upshire Village Hall, near to where she was found, and the police appealed to anyone that had attended it that might have seen something to come forward. They said that they also wanted to speak to an elderly couple who were seen nearby in a V-Reg brown Mini in the field off Long Street. They were said to have left before the police arrived. It was noted that Patricia Parsons was murdered 6 months after the unsolved murders of Terry Goodham and Maxine Arnold, whereas I have already looked into. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get many answers there, and I eventually had to pull the content in respect of a family member. But as you know, they were murdered in Epping Forest as well. And as we know, they were found dead, having been shot in the head in Terry Goodham's Mercedes car in a car park off Lodge Road in Upshire, about 2 miles from where Patricia Parsons was found. Patricia Parsons was also known as Lee Parsons. So that information came courtesy of Unsolved Murders. So that is about as much as we know. And what I'm going to show you next is the aerial footage of the 3 sections in question, or the 3 sections that were mentioned. The first one being the Good Intent pub, which you can see now. The second one being the spot where the 2 cars were parked either side of the road with the 2 men hanging around for those few hours. This was the spot where they were seen. And then third and finally, this section of Upshire around Long Street is where I believe that the Volkswagen was found, or as good as it was found. So there we have it. That is the background to what happened to Patricia, and you can get a good picture from the aerial footage of what the area looked like. So I'm going to leave this part here. Coming up in part 2 is where, for the first time, I used my dowsing rods for something other than spirit communication. This time I used them in an attempt to find the spot where Patricia was found, and the results surprised me as much as anybody. So we will see you on that next episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a like to help support my channel. Thank you very much.